Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. My guest this morning, at least one of them, is Libros Oshoma, a lawyer and a public affairs analyst. Libros hardly needs any elaborating introduction. Thank you as always for coming on, Libros.
My pleasure.
And we'll also be linking up on Zoom. He might be there already with Mr. Emma Abioye, who is Deputy President of Judicial. Judicial, in case you didn't know, is the acronym for JUSUN, Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria. So between, our friend Libros here and our guests, I guess we're going to be looking at the ongoing strike, of judiciary staff workers. We thought that this might be resolved following the meeting with the MBA, but no such luck. Let me see. Do we have Mr. Do we have Mr. Abioye yet? Good morning, Mr. Abioye. I'm sure you'll join us as soon as you can. Libros, why did it? Well, first of all, why are they striking? I guess if one wanted to put one broad plank, it would be that judiciary staff workers are protesting the alleged denial of financial autonomy to the judiciary system. Who would be the culprit if this allegation were to be proved? Would it be the governors? Would it be state courts, federal courts? How does it work?
Yeah, we have different strata of courts in Nigeria, but all of them subsume and recognize other Section 6 of the 1999 Constitution. And so, but you have the Supreme Court, which is a federal court. You have the Court of Appeal, which is a federal court also. You have the federal high courts, and then you have state high courts. And then you have either the customary courts or the Sharia courts, depending on the area, either in the north or in the south.
So we're leaving the magistrate courts out of this?
No. Then you have the magistrate courts, and then the customary courts.
Okay.
So from the Sharia courts, you have Sharia courts of appeal. All of these are manned by the states. And then to the high courts, to the magistrate court and the customary court, all of these are courts that are under the state government. And the Court of Appeal, the Federal High Court, Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court are federal government courts. Their finances, the federal government is responsible for their finances. So what the Judicial Union, Judicial Workers Union of Nigeria is talking about is the fact that for the federal courts, and then the National Industrial Court also, you have the National Industrial Court that it also, its finances are also managed by the court as provided for in the Constitution. So their complaint is that for the courts managed by the federal government, to a large extent, they enjoy financial autonomy because it's a constitutional provision. The president also had been at the forefront of ensuring that financial autonomy for judiciary is enforced. And to that extent, he even went as far as, signing into law executive order number 10, to enforce compliance of judicial autonomy. The first question you ask now is, why do we need an executive order to enforce the compliance of a constitutional provision?
Indeed, one wonders.
Yes, and so, apart from that, the governors have consistently kicked against the financial autonomy for the judiciary. Meanwhile, mind you, these same governors are the ones looking for financial autonomy for state governments. They don't want financial autonomy for local government. They don't want financial autonomies for the judiciary. And so the judicial workers are now saying, no, we can't continue like this. A situation where our budget, we can't even present our budget directly to the State House of Assembly. We had to route them through the governor, in some cases, Attorney General. If you remember at the point in Lagos State, the magistracy under the Lagos State government was almost surreptitiously, placed under the control and management of the Attorney General. It took the intervention of our very good friend G.T. Ogunye to approach the Lagos State High Court to say, no, this can't happen. And so this is the crisis we are facing. And MBA is saying, yes, you have every right to fight for financial autonomy. We all believe that, this should be the way to go. But that this is not the right time. This is not the right time because because of the insecurity crisis in the country now. Police are going to make arrests, and then they would need the courts to be open to charge suspects. And if the courts are not open, they can detain suspects indiscriminately. And Judicial is saying there is never a good time that is the right time. These problems will always be with us.
That's what a lot of people say.
So the problems will always be with us. So now is the best time for us. The last time they went on strike, if you remember, was in 2015. For Edo State government, they enforced their no work, no pay rule, and the workers weren't paid. And so that's why it's in Edo State, apart from Edo State, the entire courts in the Federation are on strike now. And so this is one of the high-handedness that also some people are complaining about, where the governors act as emperors and then decide who gets what and how they get it. That's basically the essence of this. And I must quickly say that I think we are getting to that point now where it is becoming very obvious that whether you call it restructuring, whether you call it physical federalism, whether call it any name you want to call it, it is gradually coming home that we need to do something drastically about the entity called Nigeria. We need to restructure some things. Otherwise, one day we'll sit down, even the president will be on strike.
Maybe it's not unrelated. People say we don't take care of our institutions here.
True.
There's a sense in which this could be sort of related. Now we have this imbroglio, so to speak, and Judicial is saying it's strike, it's just day 2 now, but we saw some lawyers there. It shows that courts are not open, as you said. They said it will be indefinite, and MBA was not able to successfully wade into the issue.
I think that MBA's position, with all due respect to MBA, is a political position, so as to be seen to interfering or to attempt at resolving the matter. Even the position of the CJN, also for me, was mere political also. Let's call a spade a spade. There's a problem. The judges can't go on strike to press home the demand. It is the workers that will go on strike for the judges. Let's understand it from that point of view. And then, when they go on strike, the part of the demand also is for the benefit of the judges.
Yeah, but
and so when MBA now comes and says, yes, we agree, you have every right, it is something we all need to enforce, but the time is not right. The question I will ask MBA is, when is the right time to demand for something good? So that's why, so that it doesn't look as if MBA is not doing something, they are also happy, or that they have not even intervened. That's why their MBA is doing all of this, and I did not expect that MBA's intervention will yield results. Even the intervention of the CJN, the intervention of the critical stakeholders, the governor and the federal government should sit down with them and say, look, this is how we need to go. This is a constitutional provision. Like I was reading a book recently by Senator Abaribe, and he said, look, really, do you need a constitutional amendment to do the right thing? Here we amend, at every turn we want to amend our constitution for people to do the right, and yet the constitution is still observed in breach. So nobody is complaining. The people that want autonomy would also refuse autonomy for other agencies. And like you said, you've summed it up, because we don't have respect for institutions here. Institutions are subservient to, people. So once you are a governor, once you are a president, once you are a minister, you see yourself as an emperor who can do no wrong. You can trample upon the constitution, you can violate the constitution at will, and yet, when somebody dare to approach the court, you will be the one, the Attorney General of the state, who should be defending that same document, will be the one to go to court to defend you. It's an aberration. It's an aberration. But also, one other thing that is very clear now is that the issue Nigeria is a poor country. We don't have money. And so that's why the governors, we also have leaders that do not think. That's why the governors, once they receive allocation from Abuja, they look at the ones they can keep, and then by the time they pay salaries, there is nothing left to even grant autonomy. So if you grant autonomy to these agencies, judiciary, you grant autonomy to local government, what is left for the state governors also will be next to nothing, because a lot of them do not even think out of the box. So they are waiting for allocation. So when the allocation comes, allocation is not enough to do anything. So these are ways they scratch. They scratch from local government allocation, they scratch from the judiciary allocation, in some cases scratch from the legislators' allocation. And then now, so that they will be able to at least have something to keep and then even execute projects. Until we sit down and ask ourselves, how do we want to run this country? We need to look for people that can think outside the box to raise finances from other areas. We will continue with this problem because the money is not even enough. It's not there.
Indeed. Well, I'll return to that point. Good morning, Kesandu. Thank you for calling in.
Uncle Yori, I greet you, sir.
Kesandu is on the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Barrister. Good morning, Uncle Yori.
He was. Kesandu.
Yes,
no?
I can hear you, sir. Can you hear me? Hello?
Kesandu? Kesandu,
Yes,
good morning.
Hello, Uncle Yori. Good morning. Hello?
Please continue. Just go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. All right. You see, like the doctor said there, the problem we're having is because we do not respect our institutions. Ordinarily, these institutions are supposed to be sacred. Ordinarily, these institutions are supposed to be revered. It is very unfortunate that governors, after every month that they pocket you sum of money and they turn it whatever they do it, people who are working so hard for the good growth and development of our society are not being even cared about. It is quite unfortunate that the likes of the CJ and maybe the NBA try to play politics with some of these things. It is so disheartening. We need to respect these institutions. We need to respect these people. They have families too. They have responsibilities too. They cannot be working on daily basis. We do not care. Let us talk about the autonomies of this people. Like you rightly said, I've come across that particular quote by Senator Fahimi. We do not need to always try to amend the constitution for people to do the right thing. Presidency should call on the governors. The governors, let the National Assembly hold some of these people responsible. Let the State Assembly hold some of these governors responsible. This is the right thing. We are not asking for too much. God bless Nigeria.
Indeed, thank you very much. As they said, you could almost hear the exasperation in his voice. We're not asking for very much. But these people say, well, when I say these people, I meant Judicial is saying that it's going to be indefinite. I don't know. How indefinite can indefinite be? Because you've just pointed out that it's in a difficult, any time is going to be a difficult time. Any time.
There are some services that are essential. Judiciary is one of them. Even though in some cases, you know, even the cost of access to justice becomes expensive. And then you also find out that as we speak now, medical doctors are on strike.
NAD, Association of Resident Doctors
are on strike.
And what you said was also said. Sorry, what you said was also said in relation to the doctors when we had this discussion yesterday.
In COVID era,
this is the best time.
Yes, in COVID era, all the allowances promised, all the increment promised, agreements signed have not been obeyed and complied with. For ASUP, the Polytechnic lecturers, they have said that the agreement reached in 2014 had not been implemented. But our president is in London for a short rest, according to him, the letter he wrote to the Jordanian king.
Good morning, Reverend Dominic.
Good morning, Yori. How are you?
Thank you very much for calling in.
But how are you today?
Very well, thank you.
I think Libas have said it all in this sense. Yori, if you are talking about autonomy of this, of finance, of money to some people, you are the one with the governors used for their own interest. Now, what we are trying to say, Yori, please manage this autonomy and the swags that we deal with state police. I've been the one who said, God forbid, for state police. Why did I say that? The brain of police today is equipment. The brain of police today is taking care of them. The brain of police today is paying their salary. Now, the governors that could not pay, the governors cannot pay health workers. The governors cannot pay judicial workers. I go to fund a sensitive thing called police with the gun, with the artillery and everything. How do we work? Why do we compound problem here? You're please give me 30 seconds.
Okay.
Back a little bit. But what happened in my state? Any nation that doesn't take responsible for what happened, that nation will look like Nigeria. How come on earth that if the man went to fight people in their own domain, the man could not fight back? And we can answer my question. How come people come to fight you in headquarters and there was no one single casualty? And everybody has gone home with, head around east, west, and north. Anytime we begin to query our people, let me tell you, it's going to go on with this morning. I'm very, very sure the authority will query you as a different journalist, as a man who knows what to do. They will ask you, sir, what went wrong? But when something goes wrong, nobody asks anybody question. That's Nigeria. This maybe will not work because there's not enough money to manage autonomy, or enough money to manage things. Every sector of our life is on strike. My children supposed to enter university for 2 years. What a nation! We must come to the point when we take people responsible for what they do. Constitution is not issue; it's active of Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic. This is an interesting, the take on the whole matter, because Kesandu said we're not asking for too much. We're just asking that can we follow the guidelines, the rules, the way it should be done. But apparently, from the point of view of Judicial, the governors are doing pretty much what they want, and you were asking how can this be? But you've also explained that.
Yes, it's a mixed sport.
Yes, thank you.
Let me quickly give you an example. Take Niger State, for example, the land mass of Niger State. It's almost ×3 of the country of Israel. But you know how much Israel makes from vegetables alone, about $1.5 billion annually from vegetables. What is Niger State selling to the rest of the world, apart from federal allocation and tax from Lagos?
So this is part of the crux of the matter.
That is
right?
part of the crux of the matter.
Little resources.
We're talking about, state police. If we go there, apart from even the finances, look at what happened in my state, Edo State, recently, where the police granted administrative bail. The deputy governor said he revoked the bail because he's an interested party in a matter. And so, when you look at all of this, Nigeria is a very poor country. And the leadership is not helping matters. You see how much we spend to take care of our legislators, our executive, and even hangers on. We buy expensive cars. None is produced here. Now the world is going into a knowledge-based economy. We are still looking at farming. Farming without knowledge, without added value, it's poverty. Nigeria is poor.
One moment. Let me bring in Den in Abuja. Good morning. Den in Abuja. Yeah, carry on, please.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for calling in. I don't know what happened there, but as Den in Abuja,
he wants to hear himself.
Yeah. So that I think that might have been what was happening. I think he has the volume of his TV on high because he's listening to the program and kept it at that level when he was connected with us. That's going to create all sorts of echoes and howlback. So please, long-time viewers of our program, we're not sort of excluding anybody, but they know as soon as you're connected, you got to kill the volume so that we can hear you.
And so, when you now talk about all this autonomy, without thinking of alternative way of making money to finance these sectors, you're going to have the problem that you're having. We're talking about judiciary now. This is an arm of government. The legislatures are there. They can, in some states, legislative workers are also on strike because they are also demanding for autonomy for legislatures. So we need to now begin to ask ourselves, we need governors who can think out of the box on how to raise extra revenues. Not just go abroad borrowing, how to generate revenue within, not just look for companies and tax them or tax the average market woman. We need to create, industries that can generate income and you sell to the outside world and you make money. But when you sit down, look at the state of California, for example. It's richer than, most countries in Africa. You know, if California were to be a state, it would be richer than most, maybe half of America.
If it were to be a country.
The country, sorry. And so, because they don't need to every day drive to Washington, D.C. to collect allocation from the president, you know, and then they talk about derivation, onshore, offshore, dichotomy. It's knowledge.
So you think it is, one, an over-reliance on, you know, as it were, allocations?
Yes, yes, it is. That's squarely the problem.
Coupled with a lack of creative thinking.
Lack of creative thinking. The little that is even available, the little that is available, we spend it on recurring. And so, where you have a governor's, I saw a governor's retinue of cars, and I asked myself, and I just told myself, I said, of all the cars here, no kobo is domiciled here because you brought them from abroad. So every money you spend on these cars, including tires, you will all go back to a country that is not yours. And so that country is enriched. Your GDP is high, you're a richer country, but what your asset base,
we are facing before.
Your asset base is massive, but what you're generating from that asset base is next to nothing. And so you can't finance autonomy.
Okay. Ada, good morning, and thank you for holding on.
Good morning to our guests there.
Thank you.
Ada from Jos. I don't know what the essence of having a constitution. If the constitution, constitution says that the judiciary should have financial autonomy, the executive arm should have autonomy too, even the local government, and they are not abiding by it. I think it's more or less a constitutional sacrilege. So if people are saying that not happy, then let them go and amend that constitution and improve it from there. Because we are just running our country, I think it's a banana republic. Then when you come talking about the state police, the way the police system is now, even if, if it is not decentralized, the new man can do everything. He can not do so many magic. If you like, let him have a PhD or PhD in criminology. Nigeria is too big to be police from the one central unit. It has to be decentralized. That's my own view. Until we do that and fund the police well, and also, in short, I don't know. The moral is low, and all that. You know, they are poorly paid. You know, all the things they're talking about is just on paper. That's why they start money. Their principals tell them to go and bring money because they are not well funded. You can imagine a whole month. The 5,000 naira to run the operational cost. Is it possible?
It's actually 1,000 naira.
Sometimes we used to play in the game. There's no magic that IGP can perform. He cannot perform any magic except the system. You know, it's a systemic problem. All the same, let's all beat up on this country. God bless you.
Thank you very much for calling in, Ada. As she said, she thinks it's a systemic problem, meaning that we haven't really changed from the way we do things, the way we are.
Even if we decentralize and we carry over this mentality and attitude
into the decentralization.
Yes, it will be worse than this. We as a people, let me remove the so-called rulers now. We, the people, we need to understand our rights and our obligations to the state. And what are these obligations? Not that tomorrow they'll come and say, take 5,000, take 2,000, vote for this candidate. You know that the candidate is the wrong candidate. You say, I'm collecting my own share of the money. And then, anyway, what can we do? You are not a popular, you don't have structure. That's the right word. You don't have structure. And then you vote in that man. The first thing he does, he wants to recoup that money he spends for election. And then he looks for who to blame. He's blaming the previous government. Everything that went wrong was the previous government. Meanwhile, time is going and nobody's doing anything. Nobody's thinking. And that's why we don't even ask them, what is your blueprint for generating revenue? I asked a candidate a question once. I said, what is the average, what is the wage bill of this state that you want to govern? And how much is internally generated and how much comes from FAC? And how are you going to, where are you going to raise the funds from to ensure that all these industries that you are promising, you know, they will see the light of the day? And at the end of the day, he just did abracadabra, and as such debate, they always have a crowd of supporters, and they all clapped. But after the election, we came to ground zero, and that's why we are where we are.
And because these central issues are not dealt with, I'm going to come back because you've implied in there that, quite frankly, until something changes and we stop doing what we do, meaning the citizenry.
Yes.
Allowing, but Umar in Bauchi, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling. Go ahead, please.
I would like to feed into your discussion.
Sure.
The issue is Nigeria, it's not about, yes, certain times people can vouch for restructuring. But the issue is that the real restructuring is the mind of all. You don't need to be told that the judiciary is an independent arm of government. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. And the truth of the matter is, no, I think that when we talk about restructuring, yes, oftentimes in the lifetime of the nation, people agitate. But the truth of the matter is that the problem of Nigeria is just even the constitution. The people who oppose the constitution, the problem are the victims themselves. The president has done his right. Thanks to you, he granted autonomy to the judiciary. And I think he has done it. It is left for the government, as far as the federal government are concerned, they are independent. That's the truth. So I think our problem is not just restructuring, but we have to restructure our minds. Leaders must restructure our minds.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. He's really saying, because you said we have to know our own part.
Yes,
we the citizens. He's saying that forget before the first restructuring should be in our minds.
Yes.
Our attitude to our own country. And but you see, the people have become captive. I dare say the people have become captive to the political class.
Yes. How many states in Nigeria have orientation agencies apart from Delta states? Who, the DG there is trying his best but to push government narrative, not even to push the narrative of the people or what the people need to know on their rights. It's like, oh yes, that is the only state I know. Every other state, no orientation agency. But here, the first thing we need to do is to reorientate, let the people know their rights, their duties, and obligation. And then the fundamental objective and directive principles of state policy as enshrined in Chapter 2 of the Constitution, how many governments even try to educate the people on it? We say free education as soon as practicable. Who determines the practicability? Police is an essential service. But yet you keep your police perpetually poor and you expect that something good will come out of it. And now we're talking about autonomy. You've granted constitutional autonomy to local government, but yet in the real sense they don't have autonomy. You've granted constitutional autonomy to legislature. In the real sense they don't have because there's no money. Now the judiciary, that is an important arm also. Financial autonomy, yet there's no money to at least enforce that autonomy. Indeed. And then you're talking about state policing quickly. You're talking about state policing. And then this state police also will need finances. Apart from Lagos that is almost running a state police like LASMA, you need finances also to enforce, uniform, equip them. And when there is no such finances and they have to run cap in hand, they will fall back on the society and ensure that they take out the money by force from the already impoverished people.
And then the society starts complaining again.
Exactly.
Good morning, Mr. Yakub, and thank you very much for holding on. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Judicial. And then my boss, Mr. Lebron. Good morning, sir.
I greet you, Alaji Yakub. I Dr. Moon this morning.
See, I really like where you stop. You see, Mr. Lebron, I always follow you anywhere you go, like network I don't want to mention. You see, Mr. Yori, Mr. Lebron say something. If we are saying that, the first question is that who is afraid of autonomy to this judiciary apparatus? Who is afraid of it? Who is afraid of autonomy to local government? Who is afraid of state policing? All those questions, who is afraid of those things? Let me give you a typical example here. This one, Jiviori. Here in Dr. Moon, there is one road from St. Joseph down to number 1. You dare not pass this road. In fact, if you pass this road, you will not believe that this road is in Lagos here. And then we have in person of the Speaker of House of Assembly here in Lagos, in person of Obasa, that representing us in Agege here. And then this road, some of them are still passing this road. Some of them are maneuvered to that road to the better ones. They left us here. Why am I saying this, Chief Jody? I didn't believe that we know, as Mr. Lebron said earlier, that financial autonomy to local government, in the recent, if it is work, we can gather ourselves here in Dopamu, protest against the local government.
True.
Ask the chairman that come, we have paid tax. You collected revenue from us. That is operating in aluminum plate. You go there to collect revenue. What is happening to our money? Who is to food this food? But we dare not go there. You know why? If we go to against the local government chairman today, the answer to us is that they are just paying us to pay the teacher. They are not giving us money to build the road. So who are we going to hold responsible for such things? So similarly, in the recent, as Mr. Reblo said, that when the election comes, they will tell you that they will do this. They will give you 500 naira, 1,000 naira. You know why we found it difficult to reject that money? Somebody like me will never collected that money. I know, but a lot of people will do. Mr. Lebron, with due respect. You know why? Why? Because the poverty level is so high. They will believe that when they collected that money, and they forgetting that in the next 4 years, they are going to suffer it. But they believe that, okay, this 1,000 naira, we will be able to provide food for me today. But they forget that they are going to suffer for the rest of 4 years. So, it is only God Almighty. And then we have to put it in work, in practical life. If you collected that money, your state should tell you that you should vote for the right person.
Indeed. Thank you very much for calling in, Yakub. You know, in a slightly different context, I've heard it said that when people complain about the police, for example, that, you know, people get a police they deserve. Now we're having these situations here with autonomy. And you spoke about the citizenry. At the end of the day, it's almost like the citizenry will get the governance that it deserves by what it allows.
True. In all of this, if you like.
I like Yakub's adjunct of the poverty that is being levered.
Yeah, the citizens brought this poverty upon themselves.
Okay.
Because if you know, you say, oh, because I'm so poor, even if you don't collect that 2,000 naira or 5,000 naira, you won't die. You won't. It is not as if that 5,000 naira will do anything for you.
Well, orientation.
Some of you, orientation.
You know, you.
So that's why sometimes we take time to come on programs like this to ensure that we talk to people, because television, I tell people now, is the biggest classroom. TV and radio is the biggest classroom in Nigeria. You can reach, you know, fantastic number of people. They need to understand. And some of these people are really not poor. Some of them are petty traders that they at least every day they have, you know, that 5 naira to eat agidi and small soup and drink water. But at the end of the day, because it has now become a culture of, oh, politicians will come, they will give us money. So they wait, they collect that money. And then the rest of us, the educated ones like us, like you and I, that will come and talk about these things. On the day of election, we'll sit down in our home and say, our vote will not count. And so because we won't count, we always complain. If we insist that the vote should count.
And also that is a function of the orientation.
Orientation.
Mazi Okoroafo, good morning, sir. Thank you for holding on.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Sir, you see, the governors themselves are afraid of the judiciary. They are afraid of the system. They are afraid of the local government. You ask yourself, when is that anytime they conduct election in any state, is the ruling party that takes 99% of the result.
Okay.
Now, in area, now do you know exactly what is happening now? Look at our correctional center and the police cells. See how people are there. Now, they can't go to court. Police will just be there. That is why I used to tell police that it is high time for police stations, whether area command or outpost, anything you may call them, to have somebody who read criminology. Let that person be there. All this minor issue, they will just say, go behind the back, go to the side. They will just discharge everything. Everybody goes matter end. But as long as police are still like a banner, like giving somebody 5,000 naira as interest in a month. Are you going to buy fuel, or you are going to buy ordinary water, or to buy maybe broom? It's not possible. Now the thing is, the solution to all this problem is this one: the governor should, as a matter of urgency, allow the judiciary to be independent. Because when they are independent, you know exactly what to do. Now, why not say they generate your money, pay your salary? It's a relief to the government. But you should allow them. Now, you go back home. The local government, we are talking about the financial autonomy. Now, why are the governors afraid? Because they have the opportunity that I installed you as a councillor. I installed you as a chairman. You must be dancing to my tune. When they brief fertilizer, Mr. Chairman, I give 70% to so person that matter end, then 30% to the masses. That is what they want. Now, if you check all the governors, 99%, all of them, they are coming from a very poor home. Because the opportunity to be in the government does not warrant you to run the government as if you are coming from the silver and diamond school. That is what is annoying people in this country. You know where you are coming from. Why are you turning the whole government into your own personal? Look, Mr. Yori, sorry. The area the governors sit up and do the need based on the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is better for us. As long as they are running the state as man, no man, business, friends and well-wishers, we are still with that, but it is not healthy for us because go to the police cell. See people that are being languishing in the police cell. Go to the prison, the correctional cell, whether prison, they need to call it now. Look at what is happening there. It is not healthy. It is not healthy. We have to sit up. Whatever you sow, you must reap.
Thank you, Mazi.
To everybody.
Sorry, thank you, Mazi. Thank you, Mazi. Lagos, could you hold it, please? Because we've got to take a break. And so when we come back, we'll be able to. Just hold the thought. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're looking at the judiciary workers' strike continuing. This is the second day continuing, even after meeting with the MBA, and we've been looking into why the situation is what it is. And, quite frankly, Labros Oshoma has been, looking at issues that are related to it, and also this really is symptomatic. It's like an example of what is also happening in other areas where there are where there is no financial autonomy. Local governments, for instance, it's a constant battle. But you were going to say something as soon as Mazi finished.
Yeah, that our governors are not spirits.
Okay.
They are human beings, but we treat them as though they are spirits. They are not KBACs.
I was going to say we respect the reverence that we accord them.
These are people who head themselves out to serve you. A man comes and says, I want to serve you. Yes, you occupy an office. There's a respect I should accord you as a governor. But that does not mean I should be subservient to you that is serving me. And so, what happens is...
One of them did call himself the servant governor.
Yeah, but yet, when he calls himself the servant governor, yet he served nobody. He was busy serving himself. Recently, I had cause to criticize Governor Sanwo-Olu and the Commissioner for Waterfront on the dredging of Buti Ojo to Badagry. And since the road to that area is taking eternity to build by the federal government, the Commissioner for Information said he would engage me. But I think the governor called him to say, no, we don't need engagement. The man has pointed to an area. By January, they immediately detailed the job to continue. And the people in that area called me to say, the work has started. And I went back and I commended the governor and the Commissioner for Waterfront Infrastructure. The same thing in Abia. I criticized vehemently the governor in Abia. The Osisoma bridge that has been doing for eternity, I called it a center table. But the governor called me and said, no, there are other areas I am doing. I said, no, I'm not seeing it. I was in Aba this beginning of the week, and I discovered that work had commenced on that bridge, and a few other things had happened. If all of us, can engage with government like this, whether government gave you appointment or not, if we can engage. Look at Oshomole recently. He was at the boom launch of the president's wife. He was not called to the table. He was not called to make an announcement. But this was the same Oshomole before now. Everybody will dancing around. The power is transient. It's temporal. Okay. So if you see your governors that way, you will know that they are not spirit.
Okay. I want to thank Garuba in Makurdi for holding on. Good morning, sir. Please go ahead now.
Good morning, Uncle.
Good morning.
To the studio.
Yeah, good morning.
Let me make my contribution this way expressly. I think the problem is not our constitution. It's attitudinal towards the constitution. 80% to 70% of our problem is attitudinal. It's our attitude towards the constitution. We know what the constitution has in different issues. But our action towards that constitution, the little one that we know, at the heritage, I think the remaining one will need for others to do it. What I'm saying so is that you get made mention of something. It's like Niger State. You can't. You give the example of Niger State. You will be right. If you go to Niger State now, you cry. I'm here in Makurdi in Benin State. come to the state capital. If you come, you cry. You will know that there is no presence of government there. And we ourselves here, Nigerians, instead of us tell ourselves the truth, we will not. We keep on fighting each other in the social media. Look at when it's a very valid point. The time of election will come. Those ones that are working in corporate organizations, they will not go and vote. You that you are in studio, very few of you will go and vote. We allow those miscreants that they don't know what they are doing. They will go and vote, give them 2,000, 3,000, they will tell they are right. At the end of the day, we will come back and be crying in the studio in our offices. Whereas we are the architect of our problems.
True.
We know that you are a man of integrity, Ogiri. Why can't we run behind you and make you to go there? So that if you do what is wrong, we can go out of there. We will allow them. If everybody that they want to vote any kind of miscreant that they want, you come and be giving us. It is happening. I'm sorry to say it. When you see the situation that is happening in our country now, what's happening in Nigeria now, if you love this country, you cry, you weep. I'm in Lagos.
I want to thank you very much. An impassioned contribution there.
Yeah,
because it goes back to the
orientation.
Thank you.
Because
and that which we allow by our attitude.
Talking now, some people will say, oh, why are they always going on strike? Oh, now Judiciary has joined, ASU has joined, Polytechnic, everything in Nigeria is on strike. But yet, you will not raise a finger to either condemn, query your governors, your House of Assembly members, your House of Rep or senators. You won't. They come back with their long convoys. Long convoys, none of the cars is produced in Nigeria, so that means all the money spent on those vehicles, are ferried out of the country. They come back and then you still do rankadede. Yalla. So, and yet you ask what are the achievements? None whatsoever. And so it is not the document itself that is a problem. It is our attitude to enforcing the letters of the document. And that's why, like the same Abaribe asked, he said, why is it that we are so concerned? It was an address he delivered to MBA. And he said, why is it that we are so concerned? Lawyers were concerned with the words, but we left out the spirit of the law. It is that spirit of the law. You don't need anybody to remind you that this is a constitutional issue. Autonomy, if you can't grant it, there is no need even vying for that office in the first place. But you're vying for that office. There are laws that are guiding what you should do. You ensure that those laws, you enforce them to the latter. Look for ways of raising revenues. Alternatively, take Makurdi, the food basket of the nation. You go to Urukrum roundabout, you see one big basket of yam. That is as far as Makurdi is concerned. You can't see a yam processing factory in Makurdi. A basket of mango is next to nothing, but there is no juice making factory. Mind you, the former Minister of Agriculture is from that place. Go to my state, Edo State. Lucky Benedio once said he built a juice making factory in a hub, pineapple making, juice making, but to date it's not functional. And yet these are people who we call excellency, whose ideas are supposed to be excellent. And yet,
one moment please, I beg your pardon. Femi in Surulere, good morning sir, thank you for holding on.
Okay, good morning to you and to your guest.
Thank you.
And I want to thank the TBC for giving us this platform to voice our views.
Sure.
But I've heard that the federal government has already signed the bill of the refinery protocol. They forced it on us, but I would like to advise the government that the remaining two refineries, let them pick up and sell it to a company that is having a profitable refinery on one condition. Number two, giving us to bring that particular refinery to operation. And let us see within the next 5 years the federal government's idea and this idea, and let us see what will happen to the two of them in the next 5 years.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. He went to another sort of subject, but well, thank you for calling in, Femi. We're looking at
because it's all part of the revenue stream.
Okay, because if you look at it from that angle, that there is not enough to be as autonomous as we need to be in all these sectors.
It's not even enough to share from the center. Not to talk of some of these revenues that are going direct to this autonomous body should go. And quickly, as an aside, if you go to Igbo land, because of this same revenue sharing, almost all the communities are autonomous communities. And so, we need now to think outside the box. We're talking about refinery, even though oil is gradually phasing out. Yet, we want to what do you call it now? Revive or revamp or renovate the existing one with $1.5 billion. And then you look at how much is $1.5 billion in Naira. You just punch your calculator, you will marvel. And so the government, that's why people are asking, in this land of poverty, you're spending this much. And yet you're talking about modular refineries, you're giving licenses to modular refineries. You are the ones that is saying government does not have business in business. So why don't you say, okay, Obasanjo initially privatized. Yar'Adua came and said, no, we need to reverse. They reverse. Policy flip-flop. And because the people are not demanding enough, we the educated ones, we sit down, we fold our hands, and like one of the callers said, we're arguing on social media between PDP and APC, as if there is any difference between the two.
I hear you. One moment, please. Chooks in Enugu, good morning, sir.
Yeah, Uncle Yori, good morning.
Thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you for...
Oh, Chooks, did we lose you by any chance? Chooks! Please see if you can get back in. If you do, I'll interrupt myself, even if it's mid-sentence.
Look at Akwa Ibom. Akwa Ibom floated an airline, Ibom Air. And that money is generating, that venture is generating revenue for the government. So they don't have to. That's another stream of income, if properly managed. We're talking about, every day you hear the state government talk about agriculture. We want to give loan to farmers. We want to give fertilizers to farmers. What stopped the federal government, or the state government now, not the federal government, the state government, Ministry of Agriculture, what stopped them having, you know, what do you call it, farms, like they used to have those days. Like we had Bender State Task Force on communal farming. What stopped them from having processing plants to process this produce from the farm so that you don't, you can sell? Look at Kebbi. Kebbi farmed rice sold to Lagos State. We had lake rice.
Well.
But now, what had happened to that project? You know, so all of these things that we do, we just ad hoc basis things to do, and then we use them, we make so much noise about it first in Africa. Because we the people, we have not elevated our psychic enough to demand, to know that when a governor says, I will do this, it shouldn't end on election campaign table. It should be held accountable for it. Look at APC government came on board, 2015. We that were supposed to hold them accountable, we started making excuses for them. No, it's too short. The time is too short. Oh, the lot of 16 years. We were the one making excuses for them at every turn. And look at where we are today. Because we refuse to understand our responsibility as a people. That government owes us these things. And the same thing is replicated with every governor. That's where a governor will tar one road, 10-kilometer road, and then they will take more than 10 pages of newspaper to celebrate that same thing that he promised that he would do at campaign. And until we, the people, understand that the power resides in us, we will continue to go on strike because the money is not enough to grant autonomy to anybody. We need to look inwards and find a way to produce, generate and sell. It's a global village now. We are building road to Niger Republic because we want to buy oil from there because they have something to sell. If they do not have, it's a landlocked state. We're talking of building road to them so that they can patronize us. But what are we doing so that the outside world can patronize us? We're nothing.
Ahmed in Lokoja, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Okay.
I'm so much impressed with the program I'm watching right away. I listened to our guest on the studio. He has emphasized so much on the attitude on the governors on trying to create an investment across all the states in order to generate additional revenue for the state where they cover. You know, government as it may, but as it stands, cannot stand basically without the local government having autonomy on their own. Now, olden days when we were in primary school, local government construct roads, bridges across all boards. You see, supervising councillor will come and do a bridge, will come and commission the supervising councillor because allocations are being given to them. Local government backup projects, meaningful projects. But this time, reverse is the case because these local governments are in the armpit of the governor. They are being controlled totally by these governors, as which if you make no
I think we might have lost you, but we did get, enough to understand what you were leaning, because you were supportive of Libros's observations that, quite frankly, we're not doing. When we arrive in positions of governance, we oftentimes are not able to hit the ground running. We don't know what to do.
If you bring a governor here now, he will tell you that he has not violated any law. Do you know what they did? They created joint accounts for both the local government and the state government. And so every day they sit down, let the money go into that joint account. But it is the state government that will dictate how it is shared.
Is able to work
the local government voluntarily, relinquish that right to them. And so they have an understanding. So let the state government mop or like look at Lagos. Even replicated in most states, signages and advertisement is the function of local government, including the land use charge that we collect. It's supposed to be rates, tenement rate. But what they did, they all, enter into an agreement with the local government and say, look, let's collect everything. You collect everything and then we should share it amongst you. But no, that's not what happened. They collect everything and now give to each local government what they think they deserve.
As they want.
As they want.
Yeah.
And so that's why they would want, a stool there. And then we just keep quiet. It is the same thing with the judiciary. That's why in some cases, apart from Lagos and a few other states, no judge will dare give an order against a governor or a government agency. Because if you try it, you are gone. Look at Cross River State. The magistrate, as I speak now, are protesting on the street. That's magistrate, an arm of government. They are carrying placards. And so if the magistrate can protest 26 months salary arrears, then what are you saying is the last hope of the common man? Which common man? The common man does not even have hope. Right. Until the common man realize that they do not have hope. And it is for them to rise up and fight for this hope. And look at our governor. We hardly criticize governors. We look at the president. Yes, we say because we operate a local government system where the president is a local government chairman. But we should also understand that the governors go to Abuja every month to collect something. What are they doing with that money that they are collecting? Well, and how much of outside the box taking are they doing? Nothing.
We've got to leave it there, Libros. But I want to thank you very much because you've come on and you've given us your perspective and also brought out other aspects to this whole matter. We started from the whole matter of Judicial, that is our Judicial Workers Union, but you've also illustrated how really it's hardly different from other sectors where we need to, have an active this whole thing about autonomy. I want to thank all our guests too. All our people who called in, contributing on the issue as well. Once more, thank you very much, Libros. It's just day two. It's just day two of the strike, but we'll see how long this can go. Day three now. Sorry, I beg your pardon. This is day 3 by now. Well, we don't do Saturdays, so until Monday, God willing, before we see you again, do have a great weekend. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.